I didn't see. Now we
Uh,
are.
all right, folks. Hey, welcome here. Halloween 2022. Y'all know what time it is. Hey, I was supposed to have been dead 10 movies ago, but you can see I'm still alive. Me and my root beer. That's how I survived these 42 years. My root beer. Still at Crystal Lake. What's up, Jody? Talk
Hey
to
man, how
me.
you feeling? How you feeling?
Oh, oh man, it's one of my favorite days, Jody. Halloween,
Oh
Halloween,
yeah.
dog. You know, it's a great day. We had today on this show. We have it dedicated to the original Shutdown Corner. Herb Adderley passed away 2 years ago yesterday. And so what we wanted to try to do is try to do things where we don't, we just can't forget. Jody, that's
Man,
how I met you, man. I mean,
right.
uh, we it's on us to make sure that we don't forget the legacy, right? That's on us. So
Yeah, yeah.
and when you hear the word shutdown, I had a little argument with Cody, going back and forth. Lockdown, shutdown. There's no more shutdown, not because of ability, because of the formations dictate that you can't do it because of they want you to try to do it so they can just take you out the game and use everybody else.
And
So
it's so
go
many
ahead.
complex schemes because offensive coordinators, let's go ahead and say they have been more aggressive on play calling. Defensively, they had to mirror what the offense was doing. So when you start moving that corner around, they expect you to move that Patrick Surtain, that Trayvon Diggs to follow their number one receiver because a lot of these number two receivers are just as good as the number one. So you back in the day, no disrespect, but back in the day it was a running league. So you had one receiver, you had Jerry Rice, and John Taylor was good. Just giving you a perspective, John Taylor was good, but John Taylor was no Jerry Rice. So what defense would do back in the day would they put they shutdown corners on John Taylor, and then they'll double the Jerry Rices of the world. So that now you can't do that because look at the Cincinnati Bengals team that's playing tonight. You go ahead and do that to Jamar Chase. Unfortunately, he's not out. I mean, he's out. But if you do that to Jamar Chase and you got Tyler Boyd, and you got T Higgins, you do that to the Miami Dolphins with you do that to Tyreek Hill. They got Waddle. He'll go off on you. So you just can't do that in today's game. Yeah, you can get the accolades and say, "Oh, I'm a shutdown corner," but what does that mean when your defense is giving up a ton of yards and a ton of points?
Yeah, I mean, to that point, Cody, everything he said was right. I mean, the guy is great, has all the things, but at the same time, that game against the Raiders, the other receiver had 10 catches for 103 yards.
Right.
A shutdown corner would have been on him. He wouldn't have that. But you can't
Now,
do it now based the scheme.
if you looking at a team that doesn't have an equal number two, like no disrespect to the Rams, but if the Rams you got Cooper Cup, you know is your number one. Now, if you went and put your top corner on Cooper Cup, then you possibly that'll work out. And it looked like it worked out yesterday. The scheming with the 49ers losing the eighth straight time in the regular season to the 49ers. That's
The
the
Rams,
eighth
yeah.
straight. I don't know what it is in the regular season. And if you add the playoffs, they're 1-8 in the last 9 meetings against the 49ers. But it's what they do is they find a way to take Cooper Cup out of the equation where he won't beat them. So when you have that, you don't have anybody on the other side, then that can work. So that's when shutdown corners can come back. But when you're looking at these complex offenses, like go ahead and try to do that against Philadelphia, try to do that against the Bengals, try to do that against the Buffalo Bills, and you won't have a job long on the defensive coordinator side.
See, and folks, we're here tonight. So let's go over. We're here tonight to honor is this 2 years since the passing of the original shutdown corner, Mr. Herb Adderley. We're here tonight to as a celebration of his life, his legacy. His wife will be on here. Let's hopefully his daughter will come on. His best friend, Mr. Greg Eaton, will be on here. And we just want them to give you, and how I'm a historian. I always say, years from now, they're going to dig this up and they're going to look at it and they're going to watch it and they're going to listen to the voices of what you said. And, oh, I heard something on Herb Adderley, and they're going to pull up the name, blah, blah, blah. It's going to come up, TD Report, Halloween. This could be, 2072. And it's going to come up and they're going to talk about, oh, these people here were talking about a guy that played over 100 years ago, and he was this and he was that. That's why I tell people all the time, this history is so, so important.
And I'm glad you said that, because Herb Adderley is a guy that I put as one of my most underrated corners in history, because when you think of back in the 60s, it was not really a passing league. You didn't have guys that was catching 100 passes. It was more of a run heavy. You got your Jim Browns, that's and the got into the 70s. We had OJ Simpsons and whatnot, and it started to go more and more. But Herb Adderley was a guy, when you go back and watch some film on him, he's a top 10 corner all time. I mean, that's without a doubt. I know everybody want to, everybody want to name Darrell Green, and everybody want to name Deion Sanders and Darrelle Revis, and everybody talking about Lester Hayes, and I'm not arguing with any of that. Mel Renfro, all those guys, what I'm saying, your Michael Haynes, we know these guys, your Dick Night Train Lanes, but I love what you're doing with this show, because a lot of people like my son's age and people that's gonna be younger than my son, that one day I'll be a grandfather, they won't understand who Herb Adderley is. And I want to make sure that we know, and make sure they know who Herb Adderley is. I want to make sure you know who Lester Hayes is. I want you to know who Dick Night Train Lang is. Dick LeBeau. People don't remember how good Dick LeBeau was.
Yes, he was.
But we have to make sure this, Tony, it's our job, because no disrespect to any of the mainstream medias, but they don't do that. They don't, NFL Films do a good job of keeping everybody in tune, but you're not going to catch what we're talking about right here. You're not going to catch a lot of that on ESPN or Fox Sports, and it's no disrespect to that. But when we're talking about top 10 shutdown corners of all time, now we talking about shutdown corners. I got Herb in my top 5, and we're talking about just best corners overall. I got him in my top 10.
See, there you go. And see, Herb he actually finished playing when I was 2 years old, and Jody was minus 6.
I wasn't even born yet, but I'm a historian.
So you can show how far we're actually going back. Again, folks, it's a special Halloween show. We're celebrating the 2-year anniversary. And I use the word celebrating because we want to celebrate this man's life. The 2-year anniversary of Mr. Herb Adderley, and of his passing 2 years ago yesterday. He passed away. And this is just, our way of making sure, and we're a little biased because we're friends with Dr. Adderley and Miss Barbara Adderley and the grandkids. So, yeah, but so what? I mean,
you know what?
He was a baller.
Right? My thing is, they can say that they can say that it's a bias, but let's be real about it. Because before even, you got to think, before I even met Dr. Tony Adderley, remember I had Herb Adderley on my top underrated defensive backs. If you go back, you got to think. Remember, I had to show her. So it wasn't a bias. I already had started doing my homework on this guy, because I'm a historian of the game, and I want to make sure that I can take my knowledge and give it to the younger generation, or give it to the generation that just haven't heard. Because a lot of times, and there's no disrespect to the common fan, but sometimes they don't have time, because with their job, their kids, school, other ventures, music, that, kids recitals and stuff like that. You don't have the time to go back and study. So you're relying on ESPN to give you that knowledge. But I want to make sure we get the correct knowledge, not just your up-to-date facts, because you're a history buff, not just in sports, but you're a history buff all the way together. And if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. So my thought process is to continue to educate about sports, because sometimes we do just get into a what have we done for me lately type of fan, and that's okay. But I'm going to always be the one to come back and tell y'all like, hey, look this guy up, man. Google this guy. That's the beauty of Google and beauty of the internet. You can go back and see anybody that you want. You know, Dick Night Train Lane. You know, Dick LeBeau. Herb Adderley's running mate. I thought the Green Bay Packers had one of the top 3 defensive backfields in all of football in history. If you look at those 60 Green Bay Packers, I got them number 3 all time with Bob Jeter. You know, hey, give some love to Bob Jeter because the Green Bay Packers was the first organization to have 2 starting defensive backs that was African American.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention,
and to say that Herb was the first African American drafted by Vince Lombardi.
Yeah. And then not to mention, he was the first defensive player to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl. So
first defensive touchdown in the Super Bowl, Herb Adderley.
So it's a lot. It's not that we just saying this. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. You know what I'm saying? He's well respected by his peers.
Notable numbers. So it goes down in history. In the first 6 years of the Super Bowl, Herb Adderley played in 4 of them. He won 3 of them, and he won with 2 different coaches, Vince Lombardi and Tom Landry. Nobody has done that.
No.
So, as an African American, he has the most championships in the history of this sport that we call football on the professional level. That's pretty damn big.
I mean,
when you think about all the African Americans out here.
And he went into the Hall of Fame in 1980. So he went in right shortly after his playing days were over. I think he was the first ballot. I think he was the first ballot Hall of Famer, wasn't he?
Well, back then I didn't know how long it was, but his last game was played New Year's Eve of '72. So his last season was '72. So he went in the Hall of Fame in '80. So I guess he got nominated in '79. Approved in '79. If you go in '80, the class of '80. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's it. I guess wasn't that big then, as far as the press of it. Now that event is like the biggest event in the world. Yeah, I mean it's Jody, you sitting there last year. That's a huge event now. I mean, that thing takes up everything.
I mean, it's a huge event because you sitting in the same place of your people that you would never, like, I'm gonna go with myself. I never thought in a million years that I'll be able to sit in the same room with these legends. I mean, we talking about legendary individuals. I'm talking about these people are immortalized in history. It's people that don't even know about sports or never heard about sport, but they know who Lawrence Taylor is. That was a guy that was sitting literally 3 feet away from me, actually spoke to me. I'm sitting there with your Lawrence Taylors, your Charles Woodsons of the world, your Champ Baileys of the world. We sitting at the same table with Carl Eller. And people know who Carl Eller is. He was part of the Purple People Eaters of the Minnesota Vikings in the 70s, where they were the best defensive line of all time. Mm-hmm. They were the best. Alan Page, Carl Eller, Jim Marshall, all those guys should be in. Jim Marshall will get in the Hall of Fame. He had 130 sacks. He's the only one that's not. Well, I guess it was another gentleman that didn't get in there, but he's the guy that I think will definitely get in the Hall of Fame. But that was the best defensive line, and we talking about great. We talking about. I give him the nod over the Pittsburgh Steelers. I give him the nod over the Philadelphia Eagles. I give him the nod over. If you're looking more modern, I give him the nod over the Carolina Panthers. That had Julius Peppers, Chris Jenkins. So I give him the nod over those lines. And if anybody want to challenge me on any line that you could find that was better than the Minnesota Vikings, let me know.
Charles Haley, Russell Maryland, Jimmy Jones, Jim Jeffcoat. Dallas defensive line 92, 93 was deep.
I like the Dallas line that had Randy White and Bob Lilly on it.
Oh, wait. The Dallas line that had Too Tall Jones, Harvey Martin, Randy White, and Dutton.
I had them as fifth all time, that line in the 70s. I had them number 5. But I definitely had the Minnesota, because Minnesota Vikings, we talking about Alan Page has more sacks at the D tackle position than RB Love, Aaron Donald. He has Aaron Donald by over 60. Aaron Donald won't catch him. Aaron Donald, we love Aaron Donald. All our modern people love Aaron, and Aaron Donald is one of the best defensive players of all time. But he has, at least right now we speak, over 65 more sacks than Aaron Donald at D
Yep.
tackle. And he has more than 65 more sacks than Aaron Donald. Unless Aaron Donald plays another 5 to 6 years at this level, he won't catch Alan Page. Then he has more sacks than me and Joe Green, who I think is the best defensive tackle of all time. And of course, when you play D tackle, it's not all about sacks, but he has more sacks than Warren Sapp, a guy that was a technique. He was a guy that got to the quarterback. He had multiple double digit sacks. And everybody's favorite, John Randall. He has more sacks than John Randall. So I want you guys to go look up Alan Page, who is now he's a judge now. He's a Supreme Court judge. Very intelligent man. Went to Notre Dame. So we talk about history, and when you talk about Herb Adderley, you have no choice but to talk about everybody in history, because you got to think, without Herb Adderley coming in the 70s, there was no Mike Haynes. Without Mike Haynes coming into the 80s, you know what I'm saying, the shutdown corners that started developing in the 80s, when you had your Deion Sanders, when you had your Lester Hayes, you wouldn't know who Deion Sanders. Of course, without Deion Sanders, if we can get Coach Prime on here, he'll tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Prime will tell you, hey, listen, if it wasn't for these guys that set the table for me. And of course, I think Deion Sanders took it to another level. And then, going from Deion Sanders to Champ Bailey, from Champ Bailey to Darrelle Revis and Champ, and so on. So your Richard Shermans of the world, your Patrick Petersons, your Jalen Ramseys now. And now some of the young fellas like Trayvon Diggs and Gilmore, who was Defensive Player of the Year. So none of these guys, think about it, we wouldn't know anything about these guys going back to Herb Adderley. He was the one who should coin shutdown corner. He should be able to coin that.
The original
shutdown corner. And like I said, you made a good point. There's not a lot of opportunities for guys to really go one-on-one. And I've seen some guys that supposed to be shutdown corners go one-on-one and get cooked.
Get baked.
No disrespect to Jalen Ramsey, but if you would have left Jalen Ramsey on the Super Bowl all day long as Jamar Chase would have went. Cincinnati would have blew them out. And if you don't have the pass rush last year of Aaron Donald and Von Miller, if you go back and look at the last play, go back. Go back. Jalen Ramsey got cooked on that, and the only why he didn't get cooked and it wasn't a touchdown is because Aaron Donald saved the day.
Aaron Donald saved the day, and folks, that's why we try to get you in the history, and let's bring you up real quick. So nobody can say anything. We have to cover the baseball. Right now it's 1-1 in the World Series. Houston Astros versus the Philadelphia Phillies. We're sitting at 1-1 from the first two games out in Houston. I really believe that the Astros dominated both games. So Philly's lucky to have a split. But because they dominated both games.
And I agree with that, because they were up 5-3 going into the seventh inning. So the relief pitching did not come through like usually. Houston has some great relief pitching and great closers. They lost that game 6-5. But in the playoffs, in any playoffs, NBA, baseball, basketball, the best player normally rises to the top. And the best player right now is Bryce Harper in that series. And I think with them going back to Philly, it's going to be a little colder. Philly's going to have to really win both games at home. If Philly doesn't win both games at home,
I think it's 3 games at home.
If it's 3, they're doing it 3. Okay, if they do the 3, they have to win all 3. They cannot. They got to finish this series at home.
Series be over.
If they don't finish this series at home and they get back to Houston, I like the Houston Astros. I like the Houston Astros to win it. But the best player in this series is Bryce Harper, and Bryce Harper is worth every penny right now.
4 or 5 years ago, he was considered the best player in the world. Him and the guy Trout. So I mean,
I still think that if he's not the best player, he's top 5 still. And right now, he's proven his worth. He signed a huge contract, and he's living up to, I feel like, every expectation. We talk about LeBron James when he came out. and he was able to live up to the LeBron James, the King James. He was able to live up to all the hype. Bryce Harper is another guy that lived up to all the hype.
Yeah,
He was
sure did.
he was highly touted coming out of Nevada, the state of Nevada, and he's lived up. I believe he's lived up to every ounce of him, outside of a few injuries, winning the championship with the Nationals, and now he's a big part of Philly going, and Philly being one of the better teams. You know, back when I grew up, the Phillies was one of the best teams in the late '80s, early '90s. Phillies with Lenny Dykstra and you know what I'm saying, John Kruk. Those are some of the better teams, and now Philly is starting to get that back with Bryce Harper.
Yeah. So, folks, an interesting stat came out, and we're going to tell you on TD Report. Basically, since the first time they integrated the leagues, this is the first World Series without a African-American born black player on either roster since 1950.
1950.
That is a long time, folks. I can do the math. That's 72 years. In 72 years, almost 3/4 of a damn century, and we don't have a black. We must do something about that as far as the blacks need to be participating more. I think Major League Baseball need to do a better job of getting into these areas, but I think African Americans need to do a better job of finding their areas and finding baseball out, because baseball was the sport that helped with Jim Crow back in the day. Because remember, baseball was the first one really to come back in it. Football came a little later, but baseball was like one of the first to integrate.
Well, you know what, Tony, I'm glad you brought that up, and I saw that stat, and it's a remarkable stat. But it's really been, to be honest, I'm surprised that this hasn't happened maybe 4 to 5 to 10 years ago, because baseball is only 8% African American born. Now, back where I come from in Dayton, Ohio, we have something called First Dayton Baseball. That has not been around for over 30 years. So it's not the sexy thing for kids to go play baseball, because it's easier to pick up a basketball. It's cheaper to get a basketball. Let's be real. You can get a basketball for $30 and 100 people can play with that one basketball. Football, you can put one football and you can play football with over 100 people. Football may cost $30, but in baseball, everybody needs probably their own bat. They need to buy their own glove. They need to buy baseballs. And where I'm from, there's not a lot of fields. So what I would love to see, Tony, is the major league teams that's in any of the areas of these cities. Like y'all have the Nationals, I had the Reds down the street. We got the Guardians up the way. In Detroit, they got the Tigers. In Chicago, they got the Cubs and the Tigers. I'm using those teams as examples. And they come into these African-American neighborhoods. What's going on? That's my guy right there. Where he at?
What's up?
What's that?
What's up?
Go ahead. You said they come in the African American neighborhoods.
I believe they need to come into the African American neighborhoods and build their own stadium and start recruiting these young kids to play baseball. Make baseball the sexy pick, because I know a lot of times the kids in this neighborhood, especially at the high school level, they only got one team, and it only be like 11 to 14 kids coming out for baseball in the city. You know, they'll go play basketball, they'll go play football, but baseball is in our area, the city. We have so many city schools. When they go play those suburban schools, when they go play our surrounding suburban schools, those teams be on travel teams together. A lot of these guys that play baseball in the city are like, and they have like 14 to 15 kids. They're just on there to get a letter for their jacket. It's not really taken seriously. But I think if these professional teams from a professional level come down and integrate and actually come and mentor some of these young kids that want to play baseball, we can get that number from 8%. It should not be that low. That's the lowest it's been in a long time. It's been 8%.
That's the lowest it's probably been since 1947. But seeing that it was 8%, you see how it come in TD Report. You never know who jumped. My man, he writes for, what is it called? Tell us for what, for baseball? What is it called?
MLB Bro, Rob Parker, FS1.
MLB Bro, and he came right in. So give us your perspective on this 72-year absence of the first time in 72 years with an African American in both rosters for baseball for the World Series.
It just shows the declining numbers of African Americans playing the sport, and the biggest issue is money. It's the most expensive sport to get development in. It's very expensive. The average travel season in a rural in a say a suburban area, solid, an area like Alexandria,
Hmm.
Columbia, Tony, or where you live at, Jody, in Ohio, a suburban area, an average the average season for a kid between the age of 11 and 14 can run $2,500 to $3,500.
Wow.
And when you sit and you think about that, who's got that money laying around? So that's why the guy that brought me into the Shadow League, y'all seen Duke Gamble, haven't y'all? Some of the stuff he
Yeah,
do.
I know. Yeah, I
Okay,
know. Duke Got-
he's the managing editor. So he's my boss sort of. I go to him, let him know what I'm doing. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, he's also the managing editor for the MLB Bro. That's how I got into that. He brought me in with both. He brought me into all the entities I'm with. All of them that I'm with, he's gotten me in. So he's a member of the Baseball Writers Association of America, him and Rob Parker. So Rob is a senior member, so he has a Hall of Fame vote.
He has to vote. Hmm.
Duke is a junior member. He hasn't gotten to the Hall of Fame vote level yet. But and my name is on the docket to get into that down the line. I got to wait 7 to 10 years, and then my name will be on there as a junior, as a entry, then a junior, then a senior. So you got to pay your dues. But Rob said this. He said vital for things like Duke's got one son. He plays baseball and football, but he's really good in both. But he plays baseball, which is it's not a lot of us. He sent him to Houston to go to school at the Bo Porter Academy. Bo Porter used to be the manager of the Houston Astros. He works on
Hmm.
MLB Network, and his academy is being run, and they go up against Marquise Grissom's academy. They go up against Terry Pendleton has his academy in Atlanta, the
Okay.
old Brave.
Oh yeah.
Ron Gant has one. You know what, Tony? But you crazy. But that's the thing. So he sent him there, and this is going to get him the training that he needs to, maybe secure a scholarship at the next level. But everyone doesn't have that opportunity because they don't have the connection. So
Right.
the problem here in DC, me and Tony they have the Nationals in Southeast, which is wonderful. The Nationals complex that the Nationals built for the youth.
Beautiful.
Beautiful place. But again, unless you get what's the thing where they help you?
Scholarships.
With scholarship, but they don't call it that.
Grants.
Grant stipends to help pay for
Right.
you to be a part of all those things they do. You can't, and if you're not a DC resident, it hurts because it's in DC. So that's where if you live in Maryland and you don't have a DC address and can't prove you live in DC, you don't get that money to help you go to those camps. So you can have a kid being one of the best players in the area, but he may not get seen if you don't live in DC because they have the actual pros come into that national facility and teach things. And, that's the difference. It takes money.
Right.
And it deters kids from, that's why everybody go play basketball and football because it's cheaper. It's less stress. You make money a lot quicker. You do get you can go to the minors and make tons of money, but you got to be a high draft pick for that. And even with that, you're on buses traveling from city to city. But again, it gives you a shot. That's why when y'all see me do my articles, I tend to write about the guys no one know about, the young guys up and coming, because those are the guys that are paid their dues and paying their dues to try to get to the majors. And you may not see them in the majors for 4, 5, 7 years, but they're in line to have a shot. And that's the issue with most blacks now. They're not in line to get a shot because it's so expensive. It's the most expensive. It's expensive, man.
And you got to think about it. Just think about it, Dev. You got some families that have 3 to 4 kids that all you can't afford all 3 or 4 of those kids.
Yep.
Sometimes more than that, kids
Yep.
to grow and play. And then I hate to use the term, but the single mothers, they're already trying to make ends meet. So it's easier it's easy to get them a basketball, and it's a sexier thing for kids to play basketball, especially like coming from where I'm from. Baseball is not major. It's not a major sport in the city. So
not that here either. It's not here in the DMV either. It's not.
Yeah, it's like I remember a kid that I played with in high school. He got a scholarship to go to like Louisville. That was the last time I heard somebody really major playing baseball.
Well, there will be some that say it's because we have can't be just economics, because some of the poorest countries in Central America, Middle America, South America come up with these baseball players and come from everywhere.
They do.
And they are dirt poor and they can't afford to even walk to the store.
No, they can't. No.
So
hold on, but Tony, I get that. But we looking at those countries where, once again, they have seen so many of the people older than them making it from that area. You see what I'm saying? And you don't see a lot of basketball and football players coming from that area. So you only seeing,
y'all know the dude with one arm was a baseball player, the basketball player. He had to give up. He was a great young baseball talent until the rock fell on his arm and severed his tendons, and he had to get his arm cut off. He was playing over in that's
what
how
was the name of the pitcher that used to pitch that had to switch it while he was pitching?
Oh,
you remember him when he was at the switch?
Yeah, he didn't have a hand. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, he had a hand. He would throw one and then switch it back.
Oh shoot, hold on.
What was his name?
I'm about to find out.
Yeah, Jim Abbott.
Jim Abbott.
Yeah. But it's crazy because the kid that we see all the highlights of dunking everything, the one with one arm, I can't think of his name right now. It leaves my mind. But that kid was a great baseball player was he in Cuba? Whatever country he's from. But he was playing one day and he went to jump over a fence and a boulder fell onto his arm, crushed his tendons, and that's why he had to give up baseball and focus on basketball. He turned out to be good in both.
But he was Hassan Emmanuel.
Yeah, Emmanuel. Yep, that's him. Yep, Emmanuel. And it's crazy because I wrote a piece on that and people didn't know he was a baseball talent that had MLB teams flying to see him and trying to figure out a way to get him over here soon to defect, to get him a chance to, and then he got hurt, and then basketball became his thing. And, now he got offered by Penny, and he got offered by a couple of, I think he chose to go to one of the smaller FCS schools, which is cool. But the kid's Hansel Emmanuel. That's his name, Hansel Emmanuel. And he's it's a great story, but he's a prime example of a guy that had nothing, third world country, and he learned how to play the sport. And they use dirt fields. They use whatever it takes. They figure out a way in those countries. This country doesn't work hard enough. Not saying that people have it, but we don't want to work but so hard. They don't have no problem working hard because they're trying to just get out. They'll do whatever it takes to get out.
Yeah,
they want to get out.
So, folks, we're on the TD Report, special Halloween show, dedication to Herb Adderley. We have his grandson that was on here giving us a shout out. We have his daughter on here giving us a shout out. Hey guys, I'm glad you guys are listening. And everyone else who's listening and hearing this. As you can see, we can switch up like a pitcher. You see how we went straight from right here, then we went to baseball, and then I played the devil's advocate because there was somebody saying, oh, well, these little poor black kids complain that's why they can't play baseball, but in those other countries, they're really, really poor, so why are they playing? So we gave you all of the perspectives on why and how, in this thing. Man, we ain't just football on here. It may be football season, but we can get you on a whole lot of other stuff too now. Hey, that's how I met these two guys, these two bookends right here. My guys, my young dudes, my bookends, they on it. When I introduced them as Rain Man. When they call you Black Rain Man, there's a little club. We need to call it the Black Rain Man Club because don't mess with them. Turn your phone over, turn Google off. Y'all gonna be short because these two dudes gonna take your money because they remember stuff.
Hey Tony, man, I'm a Dev. Like I said, I tell him all the time. We two people that you don't need. I don't need my computer. Only why I couldn't remember his name. We don't need no computers. Dev don't need one. I don't need one.
We don't need that. It's funny you said Herb Adderley. I wrote, all y'all out there, go to the Shadow League. I wrote some stuff on him a few times under Devon POV Mason at the Shadow League. I wrote 3 or 4 pieces on him after he passed about him being the original shutdown corner, everything that he accomplished and what he went through to get to where he was, and just how he paved the way. As Jody was saying, I listened for, the likes of the Mike Haynes and the, Lester Hayes and Deion Sanders and Rod Woodson's, and I'm gonna throw a name out there that Chody probably that was two great corners for the Browns. Frank Minifield and Hanford
Minifield.
Dixon, two
You
guys that no
already
one
know.
talks about. They
You
were
already
great
know.
corners. I mean,
Yeah.
let's not forget Chris McAllister with the Baltimore Ravens and Dwayne Starks on the other side. They were dynamite.
Oh yeah.
It's guys
Albert
that
Lewis, Kevin Ross.
Albert Lewis, they were great. Let's not forget J.B. Brown,
Darryl Green and Vernon Dean.
Vernon Dean, and Barry
Everson
Wilburn.
Walls and
Everson Walls. Yes.
Barry Wilburn.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let's not forget Kevin Smith with the Cowboys and Larry
Lamar
Brown.
Parrish.
Lamar Parrish.
And the little white kid for the Redskins. What was his name?
Oh, you talking
Fisher.
about Pat Fisher. Let's not forget Jason Sehorn for a while. He was a dominant corner for a while. He was dominant.
Yeah.
He was dominant, man.
Hey folks, we taking you way back. When we start going back like this, we just went way back on decades. These are great corners that have been in this game for a long time.
Dale Carter, you know what I'm saying? Come on, man.
Oh my God, Dale Carter.
All them guys can play, man. Chris Dishman, all them dudes can play, man.
And there's guys that should be in the Hall of Fame like Everson Walls. Everson Walls should be in the Hall.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
shouldn't be a question mark. Shouldn't be a question.
But the thing about it is the cornerback position may be the most difficult position. Hey, Alvin Walton. I remember number 40. Hey.
Oh, yeah, he's dynamite.
My thing is the cornerback position may be the most difficult position to play in all the NFL because you out there on the island and they're not going to remember you having that one interception or that bat down. All they're going to remember is Jerry Rice had 8 catches for 108 yards, but not knowing that he had 22 targets. You see what I'm saying? Nobody really pays attention to that.
You got to remember that in the quarterback position, you just got to have a short memory. You got to say, okay, you know what? It is what it is. I got beat. I made a mistake. I got to forget that and move on. Because if you don't, you're going to continue to have problems.
I know you're going to remember this. This was a matter of fact, it was a Monday night. It was the Philadelphia Eagles versus Atlanta Falcons. And it was D'Angelo Hall. Y'all remember D'Angelo Hall, your Vitek guy. He was going against Terrell. Him and Terrell Owens was going at it. They was jawing at each other. And, at the time, D'Angelo Hall felt like he was a top 5 corner in the game, which he probably was. He
was very good. Yeah.
And I think Terrell Owens, no doubt, Sean Taylor, no doubt. You already know.
That's that. Yeah, baby.
So after the game, I think Terrell Owens had like 8 catches, 115 yards, and maybe a touchdown. But he had 24 targets. So that's all D'Angelo Hall kept saying. Like, how many times y'all was gonna throw it to the guy? You know what I'm saying? He's bound to catch the ball, and that's why I said it's so difficult. So we look at a Herb Adderley who had to go against those great receivers of yesteryear when they had to go against the Lynn Swans when he was first coming into the league, and the John Stallworths when he was first coming into the league. Which I know, like I said, it wasn't a passing league, but guess what? It's some guys that put up numbers back in those days.
He had the Paul Warfields. He had the Bullet Bob Hayes of the day, the Lance Allworths of the day.
Yeah.
Those were who Mr. Herb Adderley was going against. So, folks, if you're just tuning in, this is second anniversary. Let me tell you something. What happened the weekend of Herb Adderley when he passed away? That was the first time that Michigan State, at his school, his alma mater, beat Michigan in that 2020 game because they beat them that year and then they beat them last year. And then, as you can see, the ugly stuff that happened this year. That happened.
Send them to the Shadow League. I wrote that up too. I wrote that for today. I wrote that for this morning.
I'm gonna read that tonight.
Yeah, I wrote that up. I was talking about everything that went down in the tunnel and how the police and everybody was saying the rivalry it's a nasty rivalry, as they all are. But the problem is the biggest issue in not taking anything from the players. Michigan has the one tunnel for both teams. That is not that old stadium. By now, they have to all the construction they've done. They should have by now separated the tunnels. You don't have 2 teams in the tunnel. When Ohio State played Michigan in there last year, they were in the tunnel and it almost got ugly before the second half started. And I remember it was Hutchinson was yelling at who's the Ohio State lineman, the tackle. He was telling the tackle he was going to whoop his ass in the second half.
Michael Jordan?
Yes. He was telling him, I'm going to beat your ass the whole second half. And he did. He beat him Michael Jordan the whole second half, but that could have gotten into something worse. And he had the 2 teams woofing at each other. And I like the I like it, but if you're going to do it, you need something to put up so they can't be so close to each other. They need to woof from a distance, because that, to me, I never understood how you have a tunnel, one tunnel leading to both locker rooms, like right beside each other.
And you know what,
That's
Deb?
weird.
You know what I don't like about that too, because now the parents of that young man at Michigan, they're pressing charge, so now it's beyond the game.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah,
You know, those guys can potentially do jail time over a rivalry, which is not really. I'm not gonna say it's not their fault, because they're all 18 and they're all considered young adults. But where was the coaching staff at? Where was the guys that was supposed to mediate this, knowing what Dev said? They only got one. Where's the security at?
it was a mess down in that tunnel, man. I couldn't believe some of the stuff. I saw like 8 different videos, and each video showed different, like longer than the one that came out before. So this began as they walked into the tunnel. It didn't start in the tunnel. It started as they were. How are both teams even near each other when they leave the field? Why one team isn't going in, getting out the way, and then
they
the other
moved
team
the whole
comes in?
one team out.
Yeah,
But they show a video of them on the field, and as you know, they joined right in. So they listen, Michigan. Hopefully they do a better job, because they said Penn State had a problem with it. I guess last week or 2 weeks ago, with that too. So
yeah, the Big House got ancient things, man. They got to do something about that. They even got to, these older stadiums like Ohio State, Bryant Denny with Alabama, they old too, but they also have 2 ways where teams go. You got to do something about that. I think that is dumb. I think it's dumb.
Before we go to this Monday night matchup, and we know we still honoring Herb Adderley, can we talk about how the Tennessee Volunteers have jumped the Ohio State Buckeyes to be tied for number 2 in the country? Do you think that it was fair that they were? I mean, not that it even matter right now, because there's still so much football to be played. But once again, this is my opinion with the SEC, is like, okay, we got number 1 against number 2. They do this all the time. They make their games more hype, because it's different from playing 1 against 3 or 1 against 2. I know it's not a major difference, but how did Tennessee, they beat Kentucky, but Ohio State beat Penn State on the road? Penn State was 13th in the country. So kind of talk to me about that.
I think it's more so Penn State of Tennessee having 5 top 25 wins. You got 5 top 25 wins out of their 8 or whatever they have. They beaten 5 to that right there weighs, and that's why I think it happened.
Ohio State beat the number 5 team at the time in Notre Dame. They just beat the number 13 team in Penn State. They beat it was a couple other guys they beat earlier. It wasn't 5, but at the time we didn't know Notre Dame was not going to be that good. But they were the number 5 team in the country, and that's higher ranked than outside of the Tennessee beating Alabama. Absolutely, of course, that's a huge victory. But Penn State wasn't Penn State is not a bad team. Penn State only been beat by Ohio State and Michigan.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, it's I just think, again, I think it's just the 5. Those 5 wins for a program that was supposed to be good, but probably not as good as they've looked. And I think the biggest thing for them is their defense is a lot better than people think it is. Alabama is Alabama. Bryce Young just made some great plays that day. But if that's the other guy playing for Alabama, they lose by 30 that day. They do. If Jalen Monroe's the quarterback, that's a 52-22 win for Tennessee. Bryce Young is just worth 4 touchdowns on his own. He's just that good. Because literally, Tennessee's defense was everywhere they were supposed to be. He just made plays. Their defense is so much better than people think it is.
Hey, folks, on Halloween, I have a tradition. Not only are we putting out the crab bowl names right now on Twitter, but you get to come in because it's almost halfway of the season. I'm going to ask both of you, so it's on camera and we can find it. Give me, Jody, your playoff Final 4 right now.
Right now in the AFC, it's Kansas City and Buffalo. I like what the Titans are doing, but it's Kansas City and Buffalo. Titans, like we talked about earlier, Tony, Titans are 5. They done won 5 straight. They're 5-2, and they got a week. Nobody's going to catch them in the South. So I still like Kansas City and Buffalo right now. In the NFC, I like Philly.
Well, Kansas City, Buffalo. I said 4 in each conference. Kansas City, Buffalo.
4? Oh, you want 4? Oh, with the other 2, I got the Titans. And depending on the night, if the Bengals win tonight, I got the Bengals there.
Okay.
NFC, I got Philly, Minnesota. Only team that Minnesota lost to was Philly. I like the Cowboys with Dak back in the saddle, and my fourth team might be the Giants.
No
I
Vikings.
know I
You
got the
said
Vikings.
Vikings, Philly.
Is it Vikings?
So
Okay.
all 3 NFC and the Vikings.
Yeah.
Who you got, Dev?
I got the Chiefs, the Bills. I just think the Titans know how to win, man. They don't win pretty, but Mike Vrabel was a great football coach, and the way he said, you know what, I know it's the Texans, and I probably could beat them with this guy throwing the ball. We ain't gonna throw it. We're gonna run Derrick Henry 30 times, and we'll get out of here. That's smart football, and their defense always plays. Even with losing guys like Harold Landry and stuff, their defense hasn't really fallen off. Their issue is they're missing the AJ Brown big play effect in the passing game, and I think that loss on draft night is bigger than it looked then because AJ Brown is overlooked because it was such a run first team. But look at all he may have not always dominated, but when they needed a big play, look at the playoff game. Me and you was talking about this Tony last year. If they had kept throwing the ball to him, the Bengals don't beat them. Run him and run the form, and the Bengals don't beat them last year, do they? They got stupid. So I'm gonna go Titans, Chiefs, Bills, and that fourth team. I'm gonna take the Dolphins. I think it's something about what I see. I don't think anyone can cover what Tua and Jalen Waddle bring. Tua looks comfortable with what Waddle and Tyreek bring. Tua looks really comfortable. And yesterday was a game for me to show, even though it was the Lions. The Lions are not a bad offensive team. They play hard at home. To be down 10 and for Tua to throw those 2 long touchdowns to win the game under pressure, that was a growing up moment for him. To me, I think he's steadily growing every week, and I like what they're doing overall. They got defense is a little iffy at times, but they can score, and they throw the fear of God in you with those 2 receivers. And they got
All right.
speed at the running game. On the NFC, Eagles, Vikings, me and you talk. I just think with Dallas, if Dallas doesn't get stupid and try to let Dak be the hero and just run the ball and let the defense continue to play and let Dak throw off play action, they'll be tough for anybody. And the fourth team in the NFC, Lord, do I have to pick any? Danny Dimes' ass. Let me see.
They start with this. They start with that.
Yeah, let me think. 49ers.
There you go.
I just think when you look at what they can do defensively, I don't trust them all the way because I don't trust Garoppolo. But their division, you know what? Screw that. You know what? Not 49ers. I'm going to go out on the limb. I'm going to say the Seattle Seahawks. I like what Pete Carroll is doing. I like what Geno Smith is doing. Kenneth Walker has given them a threat in the running game. You haven't even had DJ Metcalf every week this year. Lockett's a stud. I'm going to say the Seahawks. I'm going to go on a limb. That's my final 4. And I know it's probably wrong, but I'm just going to go out on a limb and have a little fun with it. But the Niners are definitely dangerous. They're definitely dangerous. They are.
Now, before I know Tony about to get yours, but the Seattle, I like Seattle what they're doing. I just think they play better at home, and if they don't, I think on the road they're not the same team.
True.
And I think for them to go to the likes of playing in Philadelphia or playing in Minnesota.
But to get to the Final Four, they only need 1 home game.
Hey, let me
That's
give
true.
y'all something in the
Never.
NFC. Let me give y'all something in the NFC. Y'all want to hear this?
Go ahead.
My Final 4 in the NFC is the entire NFC East.
No, watch
Stop.
it there. Not with
Stop.
Mr.
The
Fold your
entire
arms.
NFC East.
Not with Mr. Fold your arms over there. No way.
The
No
entire
way.
NFC East.
No way.
The
Not with Ron
matchup will be
Rivera.
Philly versus Washington and Dallas versus the Giants. The winner goes. The entire NFC beast.
Oh,
All
man. That would
4.
be funny.
In the
That would be
AFC,
hilarious.
I got Buffalo, KC, the Ravens,
I forgot about them. Yeah.
and I got to give up on you, Chargers. I got to give up on you because I got to go
Give up on Brandon
with
Staley.
the
That is
Miami
bad.
Dolphins because of Tua's accuracy.
Yep.
Those are my 4. Those are my 8. One division, NFC East. Every team will be in that 4. Every team will be in that divisional round. And it will be a first round robin tournament to get to the Super Bowl. The ultimate division, the only division where everybody got a Super Bowl, the only division where every coach All our best coaches are Hall of Famers. It's the best division in sports history.
Real quick, Tony, and Dev, you're gonna love this right here. Our beloved Justin Herbert. I told y'all I'm not a huge fan of him. He's played in 39 games. He's 19-20 as a starter.
Yep.
Now, Tua, who was same draft, played 27 games, which played 12 less games. He has 18 wins and only 9 losses.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell is.
Look, I'm gonna keep banging this and banging this and banging this. Justin Herbert, if you look up quarterbacks in it, and I've said this so many times, you look up quarterbacks in the dictionary. Matter of fact, Deb, I know you would love to have a specimen of quarterback because he has all the ability. But the best ability for a quarterback, and only 2 people in the NFL has this wins and losses, and that's coaches and quarterbacks. And my thing at the end of the day, I don't care how it is, Tua knows how to win. He just had 3 touchdowns, 382 yards. He came back from 2 double-digit deficits in the same game.
He did.
We saw him come back from 28 points against the Ravens. Yep. Tua, when are we going to start respecting Tua? Actually, Tua has more wins than Joe Burrow, who was in the draft as well.
Yep, he does. And he did that with no weapons before he got these guys. This year, he had no weapons.
But he beat Joe Louis' ass. But he got a Super Bowl. So
he didn't win the Super Bowl. He didn't win the Super Bowl.
He went there.
Who cares?
Super Bowl.
Hey, the runner-up is the first loser.
Joe
He the first loser.
Joe got a Super Bowl.
Hey, you got to win it. You got to win it.
Hey, Jody, can we put a little of the blame on Herbert's issues on the head coach? Staley's terrible. Brandon Staley's terrible.
Hold on. You know how I feel about that guy. Y'all know he's horrible. Only person worse than him is Kevin Stefanski. And the only person worse than Kevin Stefanski is Nathan Hackett. I hate him.
Ron Rivera in that list. Ron Rivera's in that group.
Yeah,
Ron Rivera's in that group too. He is in that group. Yes, he is.
So for you to think I bumped my head, it hit me when I was sitting here thinking about it. And I just thought, it's something. Listen, Dallas backup quarterback Cooper Rush was playing Madden, throwing the ball up. But that goddamn Taylor Heineke yesterday, he played Madden, Street Yard, dude, that dude was out there playing Tecmo Bowl.
He's terrible. God, he's bad. I mean, he's so bad.
But guess what? A W is a W.
He's a gamer.
W.
He's a gamer.
And he's a gamer.
And they play hard for him. And they
got nothing to lose.
He don't. He's just like, I ain't supposed to be here.
Look back.
I ain't supposed to be here. You know what I'm saying? That's what he's saying.
Hey, and listen, what I thought was going to happen at the game, and see, this is why they don't let black folks own teams. Because, see, had we been Daniel Snyder and we walked up in Indy, we were going up into his crib up in there, Ursay, sit your $5 ass down, and we were going to be fighting up in them suites because you just disrespected my team.
And it's funny because I wrote a piece on Ursay saying he had something to do with Matt Ryan getting benched. I included the Daniel Snyder situation in it. That's in there too today. So all of them in the group that we got in our group chat. All you got to do is click on them if y'all want to read the Michigan State one, the one on that, and I wrote one on Michigan State, that, and there was another one I wrote. On Deion Sanders in the weekend they had at Jackson State, and how even though North Carolina A&T, which has considered, they call themselves the greatest homecoming on earth, they had students and alumni that didn't even go to their homecoming but came to Jackson State because of the historic nature. So I put all that in there. So read them 3. Those were really, one of them did like 100,000 views today. I forgot which one it was.
So let me give people, Herb Adderley started the Qs on that campus of Michigan State. Herb Adderley was the first black drafted by Vince Lombardi. Herb Adderley gave a lot back to in Philadelphia to a Boys and Girls Club. So what happened this weekend, folks, basically in the first time during the social media era, we had a game day go to a historical black college in Jackson State. Herb would have been very, very proud because Deion was hired 1 month before Herb passed away.
Yeah.
So he didn't really get a chance to see all the stuff that he laid down with, making sure that we are represented. Folks, should you understand, when us blacks talk about history, and we talk about the good or the bad, don't take it as in we're angry because we talk about what happened. Take it as you need to learn so that you can pass it on to the next one, because we're not angry about what's happened and everything else, but we want to make sure that the real history is getting out there. And sorry, I'm going to always give you the real history, whether it's good or bad. And we didn't help it that we weren't allowed to play or weren't allowed to be in some of these schools. Go ahead.
Real quick, I know we were talking about Herb Adderley and salute. The kickoff is in about a minute. Cleveland and Cincinnati. And I really believe if Cincinnati wins this game, they're gonna have a stranglehold on this division. But Cleveland has beat Cincinnati 7 out of 8 times, and Nick Chubb has been unstoppable. He averaged over 115 yards rushing against them in those games.
So what you telling me is this like San Francisco versus the Rams?
It is, but in this aspect, Kevin Stefanski seems to actually coach like he has some sense in this game. But we don't have Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was a Cincinnati killer.
He was. He was a killer. He killed them. He ate them up. Yes, he did.
Hey, let me ask y'all something. Am I the only one that think this crazy stuff? The NFL markets so well. They took the 2 teams that look like Halloween and put them on Halloween.
Brilliant.
But you know what they was doing?
Brilliant. It's brilliant.
Hold on, but
I ain't even think about that. You're right. That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
The reason why they put Cleveland against Cincinnati because they thought that Deshaun Watson would have been in this game. They thought Deshaun Watson was only going to get 6 games. Think this would have been right after his suspension. They thought that Deshaun Watson was going to be in this game.
If you look at the game, it looks like Halloween.
It does.
With all the orange and the black and orange. Yeah. It looked like one team looks like a candy corn and the other team looks like goddamn Scream.
I didn't even think about that.
Hey, stop it. You're not going to do that. I
didn't even think about that. Though. He right. He right about it. I didn't think about the colors. I didn't.
I mean, just look at it. Yeah. That is, God, hey, folks, you may not like these owners, but they are brilliant. You're going to talk about them. They know what they are doing.
They know how to make money. They know how to make money.
Does Cincinnati not look like Halloween right now with that? Do they not look like a candy corn?
Yeah, they do. This is must win.
They making me hungry. Damn, I'm getting hungry for candy.
Hey, damn, this is a must win. And Nick Chubb has to. I'll put this in the production meeting about what you just spoke about with Derrick Henry. They threw the ball 10 times. They ran it 30. That's what Cleveland formula needs to do until Deshaun Watson gets back, so we can be relevant when he does get back. Because I believe Deshaun Watson is going to come out hitting the ground running. Because people forget before he went out, Dev, correct me. He was a top passer in the NFL the year that he played, the last year he played.
Most guys in the NFL, yeah, he did.
He's not coming off injury. He's not coming off injury. And mentally, he's going to need to get away from everything what everybody was talking about. And football is going to be his outlet. So we got to be relevant. We got to be 5-6. We got to be 4-7 when he comes back, guys. And this is right here.
He did that with DeAndre Hopkins getting traded midseason.
Yeah.
Yes. Sure did.
He did that with his best receiver being traded midseason. He still ended up with the most yards in the league. And they didn't make the playoffs. They were really bad. J.J. Watt got hurt on defense again. That's when he went to the Cardinals after that. It's just their whole entire Bill O'Brien, that whole situation just collapsed. They had 3 stars down there to build around. Watt, him, Hopkins, and it just collapsed. It just all was gone overnight. Just done.
From the TD report, Happy Halloween. We're talking about Herb Adderley. The show has been, we wanted to dedicate on the 2-year anniversary of his passing. And we're celebrating. We're celebrating the original shutdown corner, how he helped change the game from that position. So that you guys know, Herb Adderley was drafted as a running back. He got to camp and had 2 Hall of Famers there. And we had 2 Hall of Famers there. They put him on the other side, and they basically complained that they couldn't complete a pass against him. So he never made it back onto the other side of the ball, and the rest is history. 6 championships later, he's in the Hall of Fame. So I say this to the kids out here. Everybody like to say, my baby, my baby, my baby, my baby, because you a little running back and you in the paper or you on social media. Well, most of the time, my baby ain't going to get called on draft day. It's going to be those corners that we were talking about where my baby should have been over there on the other side trying to stop people from catching the ball. So learn something, folks. You ain't always got to be in the spotlight to get paid. So, but you know, we're here, folks. We got Dev POV. Mason, he has a happy. What do you put down?
Happy born day, Goat Saban.
All right. I'll see.
He's 71 years old today. Nick 71 today.
Jody Coleman for Halloween. Happy Halloween, because you know they team look like Halloween and candy corn out here. I mean, I've never seen. Look at it. They even got the socks and the pants. That man, it look like a damn Halloween costume.
If
Hey,
the Browns go 2-6, they might as well just start looking forward to next year. Y'all think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, 6 losses is gonna be hard to come back from.
Only why I'm gonna say no is because in this league you go on a 2-game winning streak and you right back in the thick of things. So I mean I don't want to scrap the season. You can get into the playoffs at 9-8.
Turn this light off, please.
Yeah, you're right.
Liz.
But I'm gonna jump off here. I'm gonna watch my boys, and I'm gonna see y'all soon.
Definitely, bro. Y'all be safe. All right.
All right. Peace.
Hey, folks. Happy Halloween. I know your boys are on. Dev, thank you, brother. We appreciate you.
Definitely.
Hopefully, it is Halloween, so we want to get these guests on. We're always going to keep speaking up and talking up about Herb Adderley.
Oh yeah.
It's just we wanted to get some perspective, and we get some of those people on and to talk about his legacy. But
we need to get Loxley on here, man. We gotta get Loxley
tell
on
them,
here,
Dan, where can they find your work? Please tell them.
The Shadow League, Devon POV Mason, MLB Bro, Devon POV Mason, and Urban Spotlight at Big Drip.
Okay, folks, that's my man, Dev Mason, right there.
Appreciate you.
Happy Halloween to y'all, baby.
Later, Tom.
Take care of yourself. See y'all
All
later.
right,
Go Cowboys.
All right, man.
All right, bro.